Welcome to the XIII Andrade podcast. This is episode 8, and yes, I am on the road once again because finding time to do a podcast episode at home in the studio is increasingly difficult lately. But hey, we're thriving, we're riding, and just want to spitball what's going on in my life and this past week. And for the things to come this upcoming week as well. Had a great time with the Abella Trio last Thursday, and so happens that tonight my bandmate Ralph Edwards will be featured on The Voice yet again, and again he's in the final stretch of the show where he's in need of all the votes he can get, right, from the viewers, the fans, the population here in the U.S. And so I'm super excited to contribute and support my guy. He's an incredible friend, incredible vocalist, and band leader. So I'm really looking forward to the results. But again, regardless, he's a winner in my book, and we'll be supporting him regardless. And the question is, well, what if he does win? What will happen with the band and everything? And to be honest, I'm not holding my breath about anything. I'm not worried or stressed. I'm just fully supporting my friend in his recent music endeavor and journey on The Voice. And so regardless, he's going to be supported and applauded and promoted on my end, whether I'm part of his band in the future or not. And so as bleak as that might seem, it's really not that. I am very excited for him, and yeah, I hope we can definitely stay connected as a musical group with Vibe Check in the future for sure, regardless of the pace or the rigor, the gigging schedule, all that. Tomorrow night I'm playing with a new trio that I've never played with before. And I don't want to screw up any names, so I'm just going to leave it at that, first and last name basis. But anyway, definitely excited to play with a new trio tomorrow night for a Jazz Tuesdays event in Fresno, California at the Layover. And it's definitely different because it's a lot of swing charts. It's a lot of jazz tunes or jazz standards that I do not frequently play. Many of which I have never played before, but I'm always up for a challenge. I'm always eager to push my improvisational skills to the next level, or at least be challenged in a way that it forces me to work more on my craft and really open up my ears on a new level. So excited to take out the pedal boards and yes, try to do some interesting sonic and soundscape things on the fly, but also just play conservative with the effects, and also just maybe throw some reverb at the most during probably a majority of my solos. I do plan on using my looper pedal for a couple of things, since it is a 3-piece. It is saxophone, bass, and drums. So we're going skinny, we're going a 3-piece, and yeah, I'm gonna definitely fill up as much space as I can. Obviously with the 6-string bass, that helps with adding some chords, some comping, and even just if I do use the looper pedal, or when I do use the looper pedal, I'll be able to lay something down underneath on the lower frequency end, and then solo on top, right, on the higher frequency part of the instrument. So I'm really excited. It's gonna definitely have me working overtime in multiple ways, in my head, with my hands, possibly with my feet, some tap dancing involved. But I'm excited for the challenge. I'm excited to make music with some new friends, and definitely want to leave the stage knowing that, hey, I did something new, I did my best, and I was there to musically support these other two musicians, right, to the best of my ability, right? Not just focused on my own part, right? Like, hey, let me play whatever I'm going to play, ultimately to enhance the trio, ultimately to support my fellow musicians that will be with me on stage. So I'm super excited about that. This past weekend was also my wife's and our 11th year anniversary, and definitely blessed to have hit that milestone, hit that anniversary mark. Love my wife dearly, and I was kind of hoping that I would go through all the albums, in chronological order. But the reality is that it makes more sense to tie this in now, since our anniversary date has recently passed. So I want to jump to the last album of the year, album 13, Roman numeral 13, by Tidal. And I'm going to actually start with the last track on this album. It is 13, right? Track number 9, the last track of the album, is 13, Roman numeral 13. And I titled it that because it is the 13th album, and I left that track for last because to me it has this sound where, it's kind of somber, but I think it's a beautiful sound that reflects some peace and stability and some care, right? Some definite deeper meaning, other than just like, hey, we're gonna do some cool rhythms and make a vibe of it and just make it some sort of like flashy piece. I don't really feel that piece is anything like that. I wanted it to represent 13, yes, the 13th album, in a way that made it sound like, wow, this has really this year has really come to a close. It's the end of a chapter, a new musical journey that I've embarked on since the beginning of the year, but also the number 13, right? Our wedding anniversary date is 12/13/14. So the number 13 rings or resonates in my mind a certain way. And so album 13, the 13th of December, I almost called this piece 13 parentheses days into December, right? Like 13 days into December, to kind of reference our anniversary date. So yeah, I mean, it's just something that numbers wise is fun to mess with on an album or song level, but yeah, it is definitely the best choice of my life, having married my best friend on 12/13/14. So there it is, album 13, track 9, title 13. Some of the deeper reasoning or explanation for why I titled it that. If we go back to the first track 1, it's called Forge, or The Forge, excuse me. And I felt like the drum beat kind of reflected some sort of metallic inferences or some sort of image. And so therefore the forge, where you're thinking, a blacksmith, somebody with a hammer and just pounding away at some sort of steel, creating something. The forge, right? The creative environment kind of came to mind of how this whole year has gone. And yes, the beginning of this last album, right? The beginning of this last album, The Forge, the beginnings of winter, right? And definitely want to reflect that with the album cover, with just a simple black and white photo. And yes, with my image on it and the white P bass, the white P bass makes it so cool, I think. That bass is really kind of like a low-key instrument of my wife's because she occasionally plays it, and we occasionally do some music videos, and it's a cool way to kind of reference her part in my life, and the fact that, yeah, December is our month. December 13th is our anniversary date, and this album 13 just, again, keeps solidifying and reminding me of that importance, of that love, of that connection. The next track is called Invierno, which means winter in Spanish. So again, continuing on this whole theme of winter, December, the last track of the year, last album of the year, the last season of the year. And yeah, that's maybe my favorite track in a lot of ways, sound-wise, right? The way it came out musically speaking on the whole album. But definitely enjoy plenty of the pieces that are on this album. But I think Invierno really is my favorite sounding track as an arrangement, right? As a composition. I think it really came together. I think solo-wise, it felt to me a little better in comparison to the rest of the album. But again, that can be all subjective in other people's eyes or ears. Track number 3 is called Saturation, and I called it that because it's pretty dry in terms of like there's no reverb going on in the melody or in the bass, the regular bass line part. And yes, there is some dirt, right? There's like a drive type of effect or distortion type of effect on the melody part. And even on the P bass line, it's kind of punched out in a way where, you're getting some sort of like, drive or dirt out of it, right? Some sort of breakup at times. So Saturation is track number 3. I thought just keeping the melody dry and more sparse was a way to make it different. And even on a title, right, an appropriate type of reflection of what the piece would sound like or does sound like. Snow, obviously we're still in winter mode, winter theme. Track number 4 is Snow, and it just somehow that beginning part enhances or promotes that imagery in my mind, and so it was a very easy way to title that Snow. It wasn't like I was debating on several different titles or anything. It was a quick and easy way to label that one. Deseo is track number 5, and Deseo means wish in Spanish. And this track, it's the only one that has the six-string bass exclusively, and it's the only track that stands out to me because it's the only one without a P bass integration or added part. Again, it's a standalone six-string part, and it's called Deseo because it has a certain sound that reminds me of this movie that my kids and I watch every year, and it talks about wish, right? Deseo means wish. And so having my kids in mind and the fact that this is December and I keep trying to tie in the family and the kids in some sort of manner on every album. Deseo is the one track that reminds me of this movie where one of the characters, one of the kids in the movie, ends up saying Deseo, 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 which means wish, 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 or I wish, I wish, I wish. And my desire, right, my wish, mi deseo, is for my kids to ultimately find happiness regardless of where they are in life, whether or not I am around to provide and support, on earth, right, while they're still in my life as well. And I think that this track hopefully is one of those that will hopefully be heard by them in the future and somehow remind them of that movie when they were kids. And especially the fact that my wife and I definitely wish for them to be happy and feel loved every step of the way, whether we are in their vicinity or not. Deseo, track number 5, right? That's the deep one in regards to my kids, and why I titled it that, right? It's an interesting piece because it does have a modulation right towards the end. I feel like I don't do that in any of my other pieces, and it's usually on the standalone bass parts where I sometimes will transpose the part or modulate up a key. And so this is special on so many levels. Deseo. And yes, winter, December, a lot of us do celebrate Christmas and or gift giving. And so it's one of those things where, it just works well with the album, the theme, the season, all the above. Polaris, track number 6, Polaris. North Star, you're thinking, the symbolism of that during this Christmas season, this time of year. I decided to call it Polaris, partially because the next track is called Posada, which is in reference of lodging, or meaning lodging. If you know the story of the birth of Jesus, it definitely brings up certain images regarding that. And so P and P, right? Track 6 and then track 7, Polaris 6, Posada 7. Yeah, and so I'm a real nerd at times when it comes to labeling or structuring or arranging certain tracks and titles that way. If you notice early in the album, track 3 and track 4, Saturation, track 4, Snow, the S and that. Yeah, I had to have those back to back, just like the 2 titles with the P at the beginning. So again, it's just a me thing. Please don't cancel me. Please don't block me or discard my tracks off your playlist or anything like that. Track number 8 is Flame, and I felt like this one had like a certain type of sound that I don't know, encouraged some sort of feelings and or mood, and so I called it Flame. There's some warmth to it. Again, in the wintertime, we definitely seek some sort of warmth, right? Embrace fire, some sort of connection with people, right? Life needs warmth, right? We need some sort of flame to stay motivated and feel alive ultimately. Track number 9, as mentioned before, that is number 13 in Roman numerals. And again, these are the track names. I wish I wasn't driving in order to go ahead and speak about all these tracks a little more cohesively, 100% focused, but it is what it is, and definitely want to maximize time, as I mentioned before. I've been talking to a few different people within the last week, one being the builders of my current bass, right, S. Martin Basses. Definitely looking forward to connecting with them at NAMM. So definitely staying in contact with them, wanting to make sure that we are touching bases at NAMM and discussing potential bass specs that may or may not be for me in a future bass. So stay tuned. Don't want to talk too much about that just yet, but it will be something that if I land another bass at NAMM, great, and if I don't, that's okay too. It's not like I'm seeking to just rack up instruments, but every bass is a blessing, right? Every bass is definitely something cool to explore and to hopefully reflect some sort of musical creativity or expression from within. On another side note, I am in constant communication with some bass friends in a chat, and let me know your thoughts on the anagram. Like, they are definitely anagram driven. I don't think I'll buy one anytime soon. If ever, I feel like my pedal journey or acquisition has come to an end. I think I have what I like. I know what I like, and it's probably going to stay like that for a good while. But I am curious as to how or why one would stick with an anagram. That obviously has a lot of pros to it right off the bat. Even though I don't have one, even though I don't plan to get one, obviously you have XLR outs already integrated into the hardware or the actual form factor. You have multiple sounds available. The updated sound quality, right? The DSP is definitely something that I know little about, but I know it's more of the cutting edge, more of the contemporary part that a lot of people seem to be seeking, right? Whether it's from the HX Stomp or the Quad Cortex. I personally use an Ampero 2 by Hot Tone, and even though I've never done an update, I'm just happy with the sounds. I'm happy with the workflow from it, the interface, the size of the screen, right? The fact that it's a touch screen. I'm curious as to how Hot Tone will respond to the Anagram, if ever soon, because I definitely like their Hot Tone Ampero 2, and so not itching for them to pump something out quickly for the sake of just getting something new and being a consumer, but I am curious as to how that may affect the form factor. Will there be XLR outs on a stomp-sized pedal by Hot Tone? I think that would make this pedal all the cooler, all the more practical and efficient, or maybe even desirable, right, for those of us that are constantly plugging into the house, either in church scenarios or any other live music situation. I definitely don't miss that in my modular setup where I connect both pedal boards at the same time, because I just use an XLR to 1/4" adapter cable into my R4 Zoom recorder. But again, everybody has their preferences when it comes to how they connect to an interface and or live stage. Let's see, DI pedal. I have never been one to be sold on a DI pedal. I've always been curious, but I think I've only pulled the trigger on a DI box pedal once or twice. Well, I had the GK Plex pedal for about 1.5 years, maybe 2. I only used it maybe for about 1 year. And then I had an MXR DI pedal that had some distortion capability on it. And that was interesting because I didn't really use the distortion side. It's rare when I use distortion or dirt on my sound. But definitely curious about the color box. The Jade Ferrer Capo. What else is out there that I'm curious about? Obviously, there's the Noble pedal that is, again, a go-to for a lot of monster bass players out there. But again, I'm not looking to lug another piece of hardware or to try to get a larger pedal board going. My situation works just fine for me, but I know that there's certain qualities, certain wideness of sound or tone quality that people just know that, hey, they're using this piece of hardware and it's worth every dollar investing in it. So again, until I somehow find myself in a situation where somebody's asking me for more out of my sound, whether it's an artist, a producer, etc., I think there won't be really a need to really explore any sort of DI or tube situation post pedal board, and again pre interface or pre mixer console in a live music situation. So we'll see. I mean, I definitely know that having a preamp at the beginning would be nice to be able to change some color. I've always wanted to try the color box at the beginning of my chain so that I can change some frequencies right around and try to explore new sounds, right? I feel like I like the sounds that I get on my albums, but it would be nice to explore something new more periodically, so that things stay fresh and even just have fun, right? Have fun experimenting with some new tone qualities. Again, just from the bass, right? Not necessarily new sound qualities from like an effects pedal standpoint. Effects, I think there's only so many. Yes, you can go nuts trying to tailor and tweak those things, but I think the dry sound is something I may want to go ahead and tamper with a little more with like a low pass filter, high pass filter, again, maybe some parametric EQ, and the color box might be one of those units that kind of gives me some of that ability to tone shape or tone destroy, right, for the sake of making something new and potentially cool, right? Something that makes a song all the more iconic as a result. Yeah, if you ever have some sort of ideas or experience with some sort of units that you feel I may go ahead and benefit from, or just to talk shop, please reach out on my Instagram. I'd be very curious and happy to communicate and just talk nerd, right? Nerd talk on bass talk, effects, pedals, you name it. So anyway, thank you all for listening to episode number 8. Again, this is the XIII Andrade podcast. Still on the road, but my voice is definitely tanking and need to wrap this up. Can't wait to share some more things to come, and hopefully you guys all have a great week. So take care, and we'll see you next time.